Yo, what up? So I decided I was gonna, start recording some of like these life stories and stuff and editing them into videos. Um, so I figured I would go ahead and, get this recording down of the story of how this guy who was like being like kind of rude to me at a party ended up getting knocked out. So, anyways, let me tell you about this guy. I don't remember his name. His name was like fucking Jeremy or something. But anyways, I was at my friend's house and he hosts like, a fair number of parties there, but this one was like bigger than, all the other ones I went to. Because, someone had got like some music together, some musicians and stuff, and mainly like rappers and stuff. It was pretty fresh. Like a lot of people showed up that I had never seen at any of Anthony's other parties. Like just to hear like the rappers, and like I hung out with those guys a lot and they were all pretty cool. But we were just like kind of hanging out and like freestyling and stuff. And one of the guys who was up there, asked if like anyone in the crowd like wanted to like rap battle or like freestyle with him. And I was like, yo, I rap. I'll freestyle with you. So I get up there and I'm like, yeah, hitting this written shit got me spitting, fucking all sorts of bullshit like that. Um, and I go up there and I like throw down like a few like written verses first off, and then like I kind of like freestyle a little bit later after I'm like kind of in the zone. Um, but after I'm like done, I like pass the mic off. Just there's like this guy, right, and he shoves me, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn around and I'm like, well, maybe he just like kind of like bumped into me on accident, right? You know, I didn't want to like assume, that he meant any harm or any shit like that. But I turn around and he's just like, oh yeah, sorry, I bumped into you. And you could tell like he was like drunk as fuck. I don't really drink, but I was like, smoking like, a lot of that good shit earlier in the day, and during the party. But anyways, I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. I turn around and I'm like, listening to the music. I'm like bopping my head and shit, you know. Um, and then after a few moments or whatever, he fucking shoves me again. I'm like, what the fuck? I turn around and he's like, sorry, fucking quit pushing me. He like turns around and he's like bitching to people behind him who aren't even fucking paying attention to him. He's drunk as fuck. And he was like, hey, you were pretty good over there. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks, man. And he's like, better than any of those guys. And I'm like, no, I think they're pretty dope. Fucking. But he's just like, kind of like right, kind of breathing down my neck a little bit whenever I'm fucking trying to watch this shit. And I'm like leaning the other way. I'm like, I want this guy to get the fuck away from me. And every few minutes or whatever, like one of them will like, say a verse and it'll be like about, having sex, or it'll be about like doing drugs or whatever. And I'll just be like, you're better than those guys up there. And I'm just like, fucking, like chill, and he's like starting to like get aggressive, and he's like, go up there and take the microphone out of their hand. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm not going to be taking the microphone out of anyone's goddamn hand while they're in the middle of fucking rapping, especially. Like I'm not very confrontational, so it's like I wouldn't have done that shit, period. You know what I'm saying? I would have asked for it. I would have used my words. But anyways, he's like getting pretty aggressive, and he's like, well, fuck it, I'll go up there. I'll fucking, whatever. And I'm just like, fucking, dude, if you do not, like, fuck off and, like, leave me alone right now, I'm gonna get pissed. And he's like, alright. And he, like, fucking, kind of fucks off for, like, a few minutes. But then he comes back, like, later on. And he's, like, shoving me, like, kind of fucking hard now. It's like, before it was kind of, like, a little, like, ugh. But now he's, like, shoving me, like, so goddamn hard. I'm, like, bending over and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he's pushing me, like, into other people. And I have a drink in my hand already. And he's, like, spilling this shit, a little bit. But I still got it in my hand. And it's all cool. So, and he, like, goes back to saying that same shit or whatever. And I'm just, like, ignoring him. I'm literally not saying a word to this fucking dude. And after, like, a few minutes, he does it again. And he shoves me harder. And I'm just still ignoring him. And he shoves me again even harder. And I turn around and I say, dude, If you do not stop shoving me, I'm gonna get fucking pissed off. I'm gonna slap that drink out of your fucking hand. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like, God, like, that was so dumb. Like, I shouldn't have said that. But I'm just like, you know, I'm trying to be gangsta. And I'm like, we were watching the music again. I'm just listening. And then wham, he shoves me really fucking hard again. I turn around on that bitch ass. He was wearing glasses too. I'm like, man, what the fuck is your problem? Grab the glasses off his face. Throw them bitches on the porch. The drink is in his hand. He's drinking like a can of beer or whatever. Bam, smack that shit down. And I was like, man, get the fuck up out of my face before I beat the shit out of you. And like the music is like kind of stopped. And you know, the guys who were like, you know, up there like that were rapping earlier. I mean, like, you know, the actual track like didn't stop, but they like stopped like rapping along with it. Cause I'm like right in the front. I'm like only a few feet away from these guys. And, you know, there's this fucking confrontation going on and shit. And fucking, I'm just like, you know, I'm like over it. And I just like, you know, I just walk away from him. And I was just like, there was this other dude, right? He was like fucking, you know, 6.5 feet tall or something like that, you know. Much taller than me and taller than, you know, the guy who was bothering me. And I'm like, excuse me, can you please, like, you know, stand between me and him so he doesn't fuck with me anymore? And he's like, alright, yeah, no problem. I got you. And so, you know, after a while, like, things are kind of cool or whatever. And he comes over and he, like, puts his face right up to my ear. And he's like, hey. And I'm just, like, ignoring him. And he fucking, the other dude, right, he was wearing, like, this Robin Hood cap or whatever with, like, a little feather in it. He takes the dude's hat. The dude doesn't give a fuck. He actually doesn't even really notice. Takes dude's hat and puts it on my head. And I'm like, man, what the fuck? And I, like, take it off of my head and I'm, like, trying to hand it back to the other dude. But fucking the weird guy is, like, getting in the way. He's, like, trying to screen the fucking pass. And I'm just, like, you know, I'm, like, fuck, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was, like, Eric or something. I was like, hey, Eric, like, here, he took your hat from you. And he was like, oh, thanks. And fucking, like, fucking the weird guy, like, gets back up in my face and he's like, oh, why'd you give the fucking hat back to him, huh? And I'm just like, I swear to fucking God, dude, I'm gonna go and get some of my friends who are here and we're gonna beat the shit out of you if you do not get out of my face. And the thing is, like, I didn't want, you know, to have, like, any more violence, you know. Not that there, like, was any violence, I was just, like, talking a lot of shit, so that way maybe he would, you know, just leave me alone, you know, because that's all I wanted was to be left alone. But lo and behold, at the same fucking moment, this girl walks up the porch to my friend's party, to Anthony's party. She walks up the porch, and she recognizes me. And at first I don't recognize her, but then I do. And you want to know where this girl is from? She was the fucking secretary at my psychiatrist's office. And I, like, kind of try and, like, diffuse the situation. I'm like, oh, hey, you know, what's going on? And she's like, oh, my God, I can't believe you're here. That was you up there rapping? You know, she was, like, blown away. And fucking, he, like, puts his arm, like, around her. And she's like, I'm just trying to talk to you real quick. You know, like, he's already over me. Like, and he, like, starts to, like, pull her away. And I'm like, no, don't go with this guy. And fucking, she just kind of, like, slips out from underneath his grasp and, like, comes back over next to me. And me and her, you know, we just, like, go walking, you know, around in the city to get the fuck away from that guy. But, you know, we just, like, catch up on some things because it's been a couple months since I, you know, saw her at the damn thing, you know, or whatever. But we turn around and we start, you know, walking back. And we hear the front door, boom, slam up against the fucking wall, you know, fling open or whatever. And who do I see but one of my friends, like, since childhood. I've known this motherfucker since I was 11 years old. He is one of my dearest friends. Him and one of his friends are carrying the weird dude out of the house by, like, his wrists and his ankles, you know. And he's, like, you know, he's, like, knocked the fuck out. And at first I'm like, God damn, like, what happened? I was like, God damn, like, was he more drunk than I thought he was before? Like, did he pass out literally just from, you know, how drunk he was? And I was like, yo, what the fuck happened? And I'm like talking to my friend and stuff. They just drop his ass on the lawn too, because apparently he had pissed him off too. And what had happened apparently was my friend, like, since I was, you know, pretty young, you know, he was in the military, right? And I knew this, and I knew he was, you know, in the Navy and shit. And he always, you know, has like his military ID on him and stuff. But he is catching up, you know, with one of his other friends who was also at the party. This guy knows everyone, who was also a veteran. Um, and they're just like talking about like military shit. And the weird dude that was bothering me, whenever me and what's her name left, he went upstairs and started bothering them. He was like, you aren't really in the military or whatever." And my friend, you know, his name is Colton. He was like, you know, yeah, I have actually. And he was like, "Bullshit, I was in the military." And Colton, like, just, you know, starts pressing him with all these questions. And he's just like, "Oh, yeah, well, what, you know, what was your rank? You know, what branch did you serve in? Where did you serve? Fucking, when did you sign up? Fucking," he was just like, like, he was so drunk he hadn't even, like, thought the rest of his lie all the way through. I found out later on that he has actually had no military service. Not having an answer, is like, "Oh, yeah, well, where the fuck did you serve? What fucking branch did you serve in?" And Colton, you know, just like listed off like, you know, like a robot. You know, he's just like, ba 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 ba. You know, just like this, all this information that the guy asked for, like he wouldn't fucking know. But anyways, you know, they like kept like going back and forth or whatever with this other guy insinuating that he wasn't in the military, and it was pissing off the weird dude. But fucking Colton, you know, like turns around, he like doesn't really give a fuck anymore. The weird dude, fucking, you know, like socks Colton, like, you know, right in the back, you know, right next to the neck or whatever. Colton gets all, you know, fucking, he like goes like full fucking CQC mode. Like he gets punched in the back, and he like, you know, turns around, like grabs the guy's arm or whatever, bam, 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 knocks him the fuck out. And I'm like, I was telling him I was gonna go and get my friends to beat the shit out of him, but I didn't know that it was gonna happen on its goddamn own. You know? Anyways. But I mean, after that, you know, it was all cool. Like, he pretty much like stayed passed out like the whole night, and when his friends left, they just like loaded him up or whatever. Fucking, as far as I know, no one has really said very much about him ever since then, and honestly, he was kind of a prick, but I hope he was okay ultimately. I know this was like kind of like, you know, a little long-winded, but, you know, I hope that you guys enjoy this. You know, feel free to say something in the comments below, you know, and maybe if you would like to see these videos but like shorter, or maybe like a certain topic you would like me to cover. Like, this is my first one, so I'm really, you know, definitely open to suggestions here. Subscribe if you like this, because I'll probably do a bunch of these, or fucking whatever. See you guys around. Peace.